Hi class, this is course 2, lesson 60, fractional parts of numbers and percents of numbers. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things to do, writing equations from word problems. And this is so cool because if you remember these two things, you can make sense out of the problems and things just happen. It's kind of magical and awesome. So the word is means equal and the word of means multiply, and so you remember those two things, and that will help you make translating the equations from words to equations really awesome. When you get the equation, then you're going to convert percents to decimal or fraction, and you have to decide which form makes the problem easiest to calculate. Okay, here's two very important things. Be sure to write the equations on your paper before solving. Okay, so we're not doing a whole lot of work in our heads this time. We're going to actually write down an equation. And don't try to solve the problem. Just translate what is written. Okay, don't try to get all fancy. Just keep it simple. Okay, so here's an example. What number is 6/10 of 31? Okay. We're going to translate this. We're just going to write down exactly what it says. What number? Hey, I don't know what number. That's where you get your variable. And the book will use this, W with a subscript of N. I like to just use N. Is. Remember, we just talked about that. Is means equal, so write the equal sign. The numbers, you just write them down. Of, we talked about that too. Of means multiply. So I didn't put a whole lot of thought into this yet. I just remembered that is and of means equal and times. And now I have an equation that I can solve. So to get n, I just multiply 6/10 times 31. So we'll go over here and work this out. We get 18 and 6/10, so n has to equal 18.6. Okay, not too difficult, right? Problem number 2. 3/5 of 120 is what number? Okay, 3/5, that's a number. Of, that means multiply. 120, that's a number. Is means equals, and what number? That's where you get your variable. So in this example, I just need to take 3/5 times 120. 3/5 times 120. Again, you can put the 1 under there if you want to. You don't have to. And I know that 5 will go into 120, so I'm going to simplify this before I multiply. 224. So 3 times 24 is 272. 3/5 of 120 is 72. Now, 3/5 is not the whole amount, right? It's less than that, so I know that my answer should be less than 120. I get 72. My calculation could be off, but at least my answer seems reasonable. Okay, 2 story problems written out where you have to find the information that you need to make into your equation. A jacket sells for $75. 40% of the selling price was profit. How much money is 40% of $75? Okay, so profit is found by multiplying a price times a percent. How much money? I don't know, so you can use the variable m here if you want to help you remember that it's money. Is the equal sign, 40%. Now here's where you have to decide, do I want to write this as the decimal or as the fraction? And either way is going to work. Sometimes one is easier than the other. I'm going to write this as the decimal, 0.4. Now remember that when you're changing from a percent to a decimal, you just move the decimal 2 places over because this means 40 out of 100. of means multiply, and $75, I'm just going to write that down. So now I just multiply 75 times my decimal, 20, carry the 2, 28, 30, put a decimal in there one place, one decimal, one digit behind the decimal, so one digit behind the decimal here. So M has to equal, remember it was money, how much money? $30. Now does that make sense? 40%, that's not quite half. 75, let's see, if I went up to $80, if I round this up to 80, I know that half of that would be 40, and my answer is 30, but I rounded up, so is that reasonable? Yeah, it is. To me it is. Hopefully it is to you as well. Okay, next problem. A certain used car salesperson receives a commission of 8% of the selling price of a car. If the salesperson sells a car for $10,800, how much is the salesperson's commission? Okay, here's where the information comes, right? Commission of 8% of the selling price of a car. Okay, so he's going to receive commission, and this of might be misleading, but he's getting a commission of 8% of the selling price of a car. This of is the same thing as he's receiving a commission that is, okay, they're saying he's going to get that amount. And that can be misleading, but here's where the math happens. 8% of the selling price of a car. So, how much is the salesperson's commission? So I'm going to put C, commission has to equal 8% of the selling price of a car. So 8%, I'm going to write that as, let's go 8 over 100 this time. 8 out of 100. Or you could use decimal point 0.08, and this will be crucial that you remember to move the decimal 2 places. 8% of the selling price, and he sold the car for $10,800. So now I have my equation. I can simplify. So let's see, I can divide this by 100 and this by 100 to get 108, and then I can take 108 times 8, $864. Now, this is one of those times where you need to ask yourself if your answer is reasonable. If he's getting paid, commission is how much money he gets paid to sell this vehicle. Okay, he's not going to get $10,000. He's not going to get more than $10,000. I mean, the dealership's only getting $10,800. So the salesperson is going to get 8% of that. Now, what is 1% or even 10%? 10%, you would move the decimal 2 places, right? 10%. Oh, 1 place, sorry. 1 place. So 1%, your decimal would be here, and it's less than that. So 1% is $1,080, or 10%. Whoo! 10% would be $1,080. 8% is less than that, so this is $864. Okay? That seems reasonable. And you have to ask yourself those questions so that you can make sure that your answer makes sense. Okay, one other type of problem, back to just translating the equation. What number, that's n, is 25%? Okay, so this you could either use 1/4 or you could use decimal point 25. And now look at what your options are and what number you have, because this is going to be of and this is going to be 88. So which one of these makes the most sense to use since you have the number 88? Well, I like the fraction because it's divisible. 88 is divisible by 4. So I can simplify this, and that made real quick, easy work out of this problem. N equals 22. What number is 25% of 88? It's a fraction or a percent of 88, so it should be less than 88. So I know my answer is reasonable. Now, if you're calculating sales tax, you multiply the tax rate and the cost, and make sure you change your percent to a decimal or fraction first. Having said that, make sure that you read the problem. Are they asking you for the tax, or are they asking you for the total with tax? Those are two different answers. Okay, this is just the tax. That's just this. Multiply the tax rate and the cost. The total with the tax is the cost plus the tax. Okay, so be very careful when you're calculating sales tax that you change the percent to a decimal or fraction, and that you answer the question that's being asked. Okay, so hopefully you'll have a little bit of fun with this lesson as well. I know I did explaining it to you, and I will as we work on these problems in class. So I'll see you then.